I'll never forget the day I first realized Spirit was trying to communicate with me. 3 months after losing my grandmother, I found a white feather on my doorstep. Later, a colleague mentioned white feathers were messages from heaven, and on my drive home, a white dove crossed my path. That day began my journey of understanding spiritual messages. Today, I'm sharing wisdom gained from extensive research on these signs. Let's explore the 7 hidden signs that show you're receiving spiritual guidance. Sign 1. Recurring numbers. The first language I began to recognize was perhaps the most subtle, the mysterious dance of numbers that weaves through our days. It began with small observations, the way certain numbers would appear in unexpected moments, like cosmic fingerprints left on the mundane surface of daily life. I remember sitting in an ancient library, dust motes dancing in the filtered sunlight, as I pored over yellowed texts about the Pythagoreans. These Greek mystics understood something profound, that numbers were more than mere quantities. They were living energies, each one carrying its own spiritual signature, its own story to tell. In their secret schools, hidden from the world, initiates would spend years contemplating the sacred nature of numbers. They understood that one wasn't just a quantity, it was the symbol of unity, the point from which all creation springs. 2 wasn't merely a pair, it represented the eternal dance of duality, the yin and yang that keeps our universe in motion. 3 spoke of the divine trinity found in all spiritual traditions, while 4 anchored these celestial energies into earthly form. As my understanding deepened, I began to see how these numerical energies played through everyday life, like notes in an eternal symphony. They weren't just random occurrences or coincidences. They were the universe's way of speaking in a language older than words. Each number carried its own frequency, its own message. 7 whispered of mystical wisdom, of doors opening to deeper understanding. 8 spoke of abundance flowing in endless cycles, like the symbol of infinity standing tall. 9 carried the energy of completion, of cycles ending and beginning anew. But the true magic wasn't in the individual numbers, it was in their dance together, in the patterns they formed through time and space. Like celestial choreography, they would appear in meaningful sequences, each combination telling its own story, offering its own guidance. Sign 2. Synchronicities. As I learned to read the language of numbers, another form of communication began to reveal itself, one that Carl Jung would later help me understand through his concept of synchronicity. But before I knew the word for it, I experienced it as a series of moments when the universe seemed to wink at me, when the inner and outer worlds aligned with such precision that it took my breath away. These weren't mere coincidences. They were moments when the fabric of reality grew thin, allowing us to glimpse the intricate connections that bind all things together. Sometimes they came as books falling open to exactly the page I needed to read, or as conversations that answered questions I hadn't yet voiced. Other times, they appeared as patterns so perfect they could only have been orchestrated by something far more vast than human understanding. Native American elders speak of these moments as the natural way of the world, where everything is connected through invisible threads of meaning. In Hindu tradition, they call them nimitta, divine signposts along the spiritual path. The Taoists see them as moments when we catch a glimpse of the great Tao itself, the underlying harmony that moves through all things. Modern physics has begun to catch up with what the mystics have always known, that at the quantum level, everything is interconnected in ways that defy our ordinary understanding of space and time. When we experience synchronicity, we're getting a glimpse of this deeper reality, a moment when the quantum web of connection becomes visible in our everyday world. Sign 3. Physical sensations. As my journey deepened, I began to understand that our physical form is far more than just flesh and bone. It's a living antenna for spiritual energy, a sophisticated instrument capable of receiving messages from realms beyond our ordinary perception. This understanding didn't come from books or teachers, but from moments when my own body spoke in its sacred language. Imagine standing in a room where the air suddenly grows thick with meaning. Your skin prickles with what some traditions call truth bumps, those subtle chills that race across your arms and spine, not from cold, but from touching something true and deep. The heart flutters with an unnamed recognition, and the crown of your head tingles as if brushed by invisible fingers of light. These sensations, I discovered, were part of an ancient language that our ancestors knew well. They understood that we carry within us multiple bodies of energy, layers of consciousness that extend far beyond our physical form. The etheric body, like a blueprint of light, carries the patterns of our spiritual DNA. The emotional body flows with currents of feeling and intuition. The mental body sparkles with thoughts and consciousness, while the spiritual body reaches like a golden thread into the infinite. Through years of quiet observation, I learned to recognize how each of these bodies speaks its own dialect of the divine language. Sometimes it comes as a warmth blooming in the heart center, as if love itself were awakening within. Other times, it's a pressure at the third eye, a signal that wisdom is trying to break through into conscious awareness. The ears might ring with different tones, each frequency carrying its own message from the unseen realms. What modern science is only beginning to understand, ancient wisdom traditions have known for millennia, that our bodies process information on levels far deeper than conscious thought. The heart, with its network of 40,000 neurons, thinks in its own way. The gut, our second brain, carries wisdom that predates rational mind. Every cell vibrates with an intelligence that reaches back to the beginning of time. Sign 4. Dream messages. As my sensitivity to the body's language grew stronger, another channel of communication began to open, one that spoke through the mysterious realm of dreams. Not the ordinary dreams that process our daily experiences, but dreams that carry the weight of prophecy, dreams that feel more real than waking life. In the deep of night, when the conscious mind releases its grip on reality, the veil between worlds grows thin. It's then that the language of spirit speaks most clearly, painting messages in the rich colors of symbolism and metaphor. Ancient cultures understood this well. The Egyptians built entire temples dedicated to dream incubation, where priests would sleep in sacred chambers, receiving guidance for healing and prophecy. I learned to recognize these dreams by their quality. They shine with a different light, carry a different weight. They're the dreams that stay with you long after waking, that seem to vibrate with meaning, even if that meaning isn't immediately clear. Sometimes they come as visitations from those who have crossed over, bringing messages of comfort or guidance. Other times, they arrive as symbolic journeys, each element carefully chosen to speak to the deeper parts of our being. The Greek oracles knew this language well, as did the shamans of indigenous cultures who understood dreams as journeys of the soul. The Tibetan Buddhist tradition developed an entire science of dream yoga, teaching practitioners to maintain consciousness as they walked between the worlds of waking and sleeping. In our modern world, we've largely forgotten how to listen to these night whispers. We dismiss our dreams as mere brain activity, random firing of neurons in the dark. But when we learn to listen again, to pay attention to these messages from the deep, we discover that the night is alive with wisdom, that our dreams are more than just stories. They're bridges between worlds. Sign 5. Natural Signs. As my journey into the hidden language of spirit unfolded, I began to recognize that the natural world itself was alive with messages, a living library of wisdom encoded in every leaf, stone, and creature. Ancient traditions across the globe had long understood nature as the original sacred text, a medium through which the divine communicated with humanity. Each element carried its own unique frequency, its own story to tell. Fire spoke of transformation and purification, of the eternal flame of consciousness that burns at the heart of existence. Water carried the wisdom of the emotional depths, of the sacred flow that nourishes all life. Air whispered of mental clarity and divine inspiration, the very breath of spirit. And earth, solid, grounded earth, anchored these celestial energies into the realm of manifestation, offering stability and abundance. But the language of nature went far beyond the elements. Animals, with their keen intuition and primal connection to the rhythms of life, became my willing teachers, appearing at just the right moments to offer guidance and wisdom. A hawk soaring overhead might symbolize the need for a broader perspective, while a fox's sudden appearance could suggest the value of cunning and adaptability. Even the plants themselves communicated through their own sacred geometry, their growth patterns and cycles mirroring the ebb and flow of universal energies. I learned to recognize the significance of unexpected blooms, the way certain species would spontaneously appear in my path, as if the green realm itself were reaching out to share its ancient secrets. In this living, breathing library of nature, I found myself immersed in a symphony of divine language, each element contributing its own unique note to the grand celestial composition. To listen was to open myself to a wisdom more primal than words, a truth that echoed through the very fabric of existence. Sign 6. Technology Signs. As my understanding of these ancient channels of communication deepened, I began to notice something surprising. Spirit was also speaking through the very technologies that define our modern world. In a sense, the universe had adapted its language to the digital age, creating new forms of divination amidst the glowing screens and binary code that surrounds us. It started with small synchronicities, the way certain numbers would appear on clocks and receipts, or the way social media posts would seem to answer unspoken questions. At first, I dismissed these as mere coincidences, the random patterns our minds tend to seek out. But as I learned to attune my awareness, I realized there was a deeper order at play, a sacred geometry encoded in the digital realm. Perhaps it was the way pixels clustered on a screen, forming symbolic shapes and images, or the way electronic glitches would manifest with such precision that they felt more like messages than malfunctions. Even the way music or videos would shuffle to perfectly suit my mood began to feel like part of an interconnected language, a modern form of divination. The ancient wisdom traditions I'd studied offered valuable guidance in this new frontier. The Hindus spoke of nimitta, divine signs that emerge amidst the chaos of daily life. Native Americans taught that there are no accidents, only meaningful messages, and the Taoists recognized the natural alignment of all things, even in our high-tech world. As I learned to discern genuine signals from mere noise, I discovered that technology had become a bridge between the visible and invisible realms. The digital realm was not separate from spirit, but rather a new canvas upon which the divine could express its eternal language. All I had to do was open my eyes and ears and listen for the whispers hidden in the hum of our modern world. Sign 7. Inner knowing. Perhaps the most profound channel of divine communication I encountered on my journey was the one that unfolded from within, the sacred language of intuition, that deep well of wisdom that transcends rational thought. This was no mere feeling or hunch, but a multi-dimensional form of intelligence that extended far beyond the confines of the physical brain. I learned that our intuition operates on multiple levels simultaneously. There is the physical intelligence of the body, with its nervous system responses and cellular memory, the emotional wisdom of the heart, capable of sensing energetic subtleties that logical mind cannot comprehend, the mental clarity of the higher mind, downloading information with lightning speed, and the spiritual awareness of the soul, attuned to the universal frequencies that animate all of existence. Cultures around the world have long recognized and cultivated this inner knowing. The Japanese speak of harage, the belly wisdom that transcends words. Tibetan Buddhists train in direct perception, a form of consciousness that bypasses conceptual thought. Indigenous traditions understand intuition as a natural knowing, a primal intelligence that flows through all living things. As I dove deeper into this wellspring of inner wisdom, I began to understand that it represented the highest and most direct form of spiritual communication. Here was a language that didn't require translation, that spoke directly to the core of my being. It was a language of felt sense, of sudden clarity, of downloads that arrived fully formed, unbidden by the rational mind. Yet this sacred science of intuition was no mere mystical phenomenon. Modern research in neuroscience, quantum physics, and the emerging field of consciousness studies has begun to validate what ancient traditions have long known, that we possess layers of intelligence that operate beyond the confines of our physical senses and linear thinking. The heart, the gut, even the very cells of our body carry an innate wisdom that predates the development of the rational brain. By learning to cultivate this multi-dimensional intuition, I discovered that I could access the most direct channel of divine communication. It was as if the universe itself was speaking to me, bypassing the filters of my conscious mind to reach the core of my being. In these moments of profound insight, I no longer needed to seek out signs and symbols. The truth would simply arrive, whole and complete, a gift from the wellspring of all creation.